What's up, YouTube? I hope you guys had a very nice Valentine's Day with your loved ones and or family. Now, obviously, Bitcoin has been essentially just trading sideways for what seems to be like months at this point, and the stock market is pretty much at extreme fear despite it being nearly all-time highs. And so I just want to give a very, time-sensitive update with what I think is kind of going to play out over the next couple months, because obviously there's a lot of files being released with a lot of speculation with like the market, the big rebuttal of like, oh, yeah, all of our presidential, people and our cabinets are all on the list, but hey guys, like the Dow is above $50,000. And I think it would be very ironic if that was the top of the market, right? Not to mention, like, we have this whole like AI stock bubble kind of bursting because of all these like SaaS companies kind of going belly under because of like OpenClaw and AI and robotics and all this kind of stuff. And I've been actually experimenting with it myself. I ordered some Mac Minis just to kind of see what the whole hype is about. So I'll maybe even make a video like what I think about the whole like OpenClaw. But with that being said, I kind of want to get into the markets because I know that's what you guys are basically here for, specifically with crypto. But I think that the stock market is also going to be worth talking about. So obviously Bitcoin is trading around like $67,000 right now. It kind of crashed, seems to crash every single time market open, 9 o'clock. You guys know the drill. I do think that, obviously we had like a little bit of a pump over the weekend, which is kind of showing some signs of like altcoins exhaustion. And I think that that's a really good sign when, basically a reversal is about to be getting put in, right? And not a huge reversal, right? But I think like a relief rally has been due for quite a while now, just because, the whole consensus is short. Everybody is negative about crypto. My whole comment section is saying like Bitcoin's going to go to either zero or like $20,000. And that's actually like one of the first bullish things that I've seen in a while. Even like my friends have been asking me like, hey bro, like I've never traded in my life. How can I short the market when things are already down like 50%? So I think at the very minimum, we're due for some sort of, relief bounce. Now, obviously altcoins have been decimated. Like they've been basically in a bear market for damn near like 2 years at this point. And so the reason why you're seeing Bitcoin kind of trading not even as good as like altcoins right now, because altcoins kind of stick with Bitcoin, but whenever we have a pump, they massively outperform Bitcoin on the short term. And that's usually because most of the sellers have just like, there's no one left to basically sell, right? Bitcoin still has a lot of liquidity. There's still a lot of people holding Bitcoin. And so that's kind of how the markets move. So I wouldn't be surprised to see any kind of relief rally that the altcoins are going to probably outperform Bitcoin. I'm not saying we're going to go back to our all-time highs. There's like people calling for like 100K Bitcoin. I do think if that scenario does play out, that would be very beautiful for altcoins. I think altcoins could probably do like a 2 or 3x at that time. I personally would probably be fading like that kind of pump, like just personally, right? Like I would be probably taking a little bit of profits, mitigating some risk, and then kind of anticipating more of a downturn, because I do think that this year is going to be very, very choppy just because of how the stock market is actually looking. Now, obviously Bitcoin tends to front run the, equities and the stock market and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin put in some sort of significant bottom before like the stock market kind of rolls over and we go into some sort of like recessionary period. Obviously we have like earnings with like Nvidia this month. We have just a lot of like Fed policy kind of stuff kind of, underway. We have like new Warsh, the new Fed chair, who's going to be stepping in. So there's just a lot of fear, uncertainty in the markets. And that's not to say that I'm not bullish long term. I just think that short term things kind of do look bearish in my opinion. I've been the best bull, for the last like maybe 2-3 years. So I'm not just trying to like doom and gloom you guys, but rather kind of help you guys preserve your capital and just, capitalize on I would say the opportunity, right? Because people tend to think that everybody gets rich in the in the bull markets, but really you get rich in the bear market when you're buying very, very low and then you sell on the upward trajectory, right? People tend to get this wrong, right? They always buy when everything's super hot, when everything's kind of more certain. Everything is like, hey guys, you guys should be buying this right now because it's at all-time highs. That's not really the way that you guys want to adopt your trading strategy. You want to always look at, value buys, right? And I think that you could make the case that Bitcoin's probably in that range right now, just to kind of like nibble at. I've been personally buying a few altcoins and mostly Bitcoin, right? Because I think that Bitcoin's going to be around the longest, obviously. And I think that there's just a lot of competition, right? Because a lot of people are investing in these like stock companies, these AI stock companies. Again, like AI is very, very prominent right now, as you guys probably will know. So I wouldn't be surprised, just to kind of summarize this, right? I think that, yeah, obviously I am anticipating lower prices for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen like right away. It's not going to go down in a straight line. If I had to put like a line in the sand somewhere, I'd probably guess that we would bottom out probably over like the next, I would say probably until like maybe October-ish, if like the 4-year cycles are kind of any indication. And that could put us anywhere between like $35,000 to about $45,000. I'd probably be like on the low end. That would just make a lot of sense to me. I don't know where that leaves altcoins. I'm pretty bearish on just Ethereum overall. I think that we've all seen why I've been so bearish this whole entire cycle. Like I swapped all of my Ethereum for Solana back in 2022, 2023-ish. Could not have been happier with that decision. So I think that this new cycle that we're going to be going into is going to look a lot different. Obviously, that's why you guys are subscribed, because I'm going to be updating you with what I'm looking at and thinking. But we'll talk about that when that time comes. For the stock market, I do think that we're due for a correction. It doesn't make any sense to me while it's going straight up, while the whole economy is hurting. Real estate's been in its worst position in years at this point. Credit card delinquencies are at all-time highs, which means people are basically not paying their credit card debt. There's just a lot of things kind of going on, and I think unless something drastically changes, yeah, we're going to see some sort of rollover in the stock market. That's just inevitable, in my opinion, at this point. That's not to say that it's going to be over. I think that it would actually be a good thing if we got like this massive like washout, just to kind of unwind all the leverage, all that kind of stuff, and then introduce new players to the market. I think that that's going to allow crypto to kind of catch its footing, and I think that Bitcoin's going to outperform coming out of any sort of stock market correction. And that's probably what you would want to look for if you were somebody that's looking to take on more risk. Now, obviously, I can't give financial advice, but it just depends, right? Like I like holding more like Bitcoin, Solana, things of that nature. Whenever we're in like this bearish trend, Hyperliquid is also really good. I don't know if you guys are looking at the price action of Hyperliquid, but it's been pretty much like almost like a stable coin. It's been kind of like in the same range, give or take, because basically, if you're a trader and you're using Hyperliquid, they're basically racking in fees depending on people are losing money or making money, right? So that's why I like Hyperliquid. A lot of other reasons, but that's pretty much long and short of it. So with that being said, I think that now is not the time to be taking on so much risk. I'd be paying attention to the markets, and if you are somebody that's maybe newer to crypto and you've been buying at higher prices and you have money on the side, it's never a bad time to just, in my opinion, dollar cost average. Which basically means you're just putting money away every single like week, maybe every other week, maybe once a month, or if things like have like a massive crash, like typically what happens is Bitcoin sells off pretty aggressively like on Monday. Altcoins kind of like get some sort of crash like somewhere between like Mondays and Wednesdays, and then they kind of trade up towards like Friday, and then obviously you get either like a weekend pump or dump, right? So there's just I wouldn't buy on green days. I think that we're going to have plenty of opportunities to buy in the future. And yeah, I'm just steadily accumulating and making money on the side. So with that being said, drop any questions you have in the comments. I'd be curious to know what you guys are thinking of the overall market, just sentiment wise. So with that being said, I'm going to go work out and be productive. I hope that you guys are having a great day. See you soon. Bye.